everyone, my name is Elena Ashton and I am the co-founder of Education Empowers, a nonprofit which promotes STEM, robotics, and sustainability. I am also the captain of my high school robotics team as well as the chief science officer and STEM ambassador of my school. I'm happy to introduce you to robotics. In the first lesson, we will cover the basics of programming as well as the basics of robotics. So what are robots? What is robotics? So robots are machines that can be programmed to perform many functions. Robotics is hands-on problem solving using STEM to help make this world a better place for all. So there are many different aspects that kids learn through robotics. They learn math, science, engineering, physics, but they also learn key skills that they'll need through their life, such as problem solving and hands-on stuff, and also just working as a team. So there are many different types of robotics educational kits that are for kids today. So there's everything from Lego Mindstorm and Ev3 to Vex to FTC and Raspberry Pi, Arduino. So there's many different educational kits already out there for kids to learn robotics as well as just the STEM field in general. So the Ev3 Brick, or the Ev3, is a small computer that controls the robot's motors and sensors. Like most computers, Ev3 Brick does only what you program it to do. So the Ev3 Brick is kind of like the brain of the robot. It controls the robot's movements and everything it does. It also takes in all these different sensors that it can use, such as the touch sensor, the ultrasonic sensor, the IR sensor, the color sensor, and takes that data and measurements and uses it in its program. So it's a very efficient robot brain, essentially. So hardware, the programming Ev3 Brick. So the brick and the motors and sensors are referred as the hardware. So you can turn on the brick by pressing the center button. So if you just hold down the center button, the robot will turn on. It has an LCD display and 6 buttons with backlight. The Ev3 has a motor controller with a lot of memory, so 16 megabytes of flash memory and 64 megabytes RAM. So it also has Bluetooth wireless connections and high-speed USB port. And then newer versions also have rechargeable battery. So continuing with hardware, so the USB is used to have computer connection, as well as there's also Bluetooth wireless, like we stated. But there's also motor ports labeled A, B, C, and D. This is where you plug in wires to connect to all your motors on your robot. You also have sensor ports, which are labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4, and this is where you once again connect with wires to all your sensors on your robot. So this allows for seamless transferring of programs to the computer and the Ev3, as well as just being able to use sensors and motors. So also continuing with hardware, when you turn on the robot, you'll have different sections on that are viewed on your screen. So there is recently run programs, which is usually the first little icon. Then the second icon is file programs menu. And then the third is the port view, and the fourth is the settings menu. This is just supposed to be an easy way so that way you can see your programs as well as do different functions on your robot. So the Ev3 software. So what is a program? A program is a file that contains instructions for the robot to follow. So for the Ev3 Brick, we use a program called Lego Mindstorm, which is an educational program that kids can learn how to code on. So to download the software for the Ev3 robot, you can just search online for Lego Mindstorm's educational Ev3 teacher or student edition software. So if you follow the instructions to download, the student edition is sufficient for the activities listed in this activity guide. If you have downloaded the software already, you will see an icon Lego Mindstorm's educational Ev3 on your desktop. Double click on the icon. Okay, so now we're going to start with programming. So the objective of our program is for the robot to move forward, wait, then move backwards and wait, and this will all be in a loop. So now let's see how to program. So once you open up your Mindstorm Ev3 program, you're going to have a screen like this. It's okay if you don't have the two people standing in the middle, sometimes it changes. So what I have here is actually the teacher's edition, but the student edition looks very similar to this. So like I said earlier, you can either go to this plus sign right here and just add a new project. Or you can go, here let's go back to the lobby, you can go to File, New Project or Open Project, depending if you just want to open up an old project, but say you want to do a new project. You can just click New Project, go to Program, click on it, and then you have to come all the way over here and click on Open. So this essentially just creates a new program for you to program on. So this is what you usually always have open right when you click on a new program. So what we usually do is we just come over here and we close Content Editor. So this way, this gives you more room for you to program your code. So right here we have the start block. So this is the block that you essentially need to start any program that you have. Without this start block, your program would be useless. It wouldn't be running on anything. And if, say, you accidentally deleted this, because I know it happens, it's a rare occasion, but it does happen, you can go to this color palette. So this color palette actually has all your common codes and program on there, code blocks, I guess. Each color has a different section and different types of codes. So this one is the data operations section. So these are blocks of code that maybe you need for operating or doing like basic multiplying or dividing in your code. These are like the sensor blocks. Over here is the flow control, and over here is just your common ones. So each different color section has a different type of block in it. So if, say, you do lose your start block, you can just go to the orange section and it should be right here for you to click and drag on. Once again, it's a rare occasion. You should always have this start block when you start up a new program, but in case you don't, it's always there. So first we're going to go and move forward. So to move forward, you're actually just going to be in the green section. Now if you go in 3 blocks in, you should have a move steering block. So there's the move steering block and the move tank block. The move tank block is a bit more precise, but the move steering is a bit easier for kids to understand and grasp when they're just beginning. So we're just going to use the move steering as this is a beginner's course. However, the move tank is essentially the same thing, but you program it a little differently to have more precise calculations. So if we're going to use the move steering, this is the move steering block. So this block essentially allows you to go forward, backwards, left, and right. It's nice for kids to understand what this block is doing because this arrow right here depicts what this block is basically being programmed to do. So when kids, say, like mess up their program, they can easily just come back and look at these little arrows and see, okay, this block is going to go forward, this block is going to go backwards. So this is why we essentially say that this is maybe easier for beginners to learn instead of the move tank. However, like we said earlier, the move tank is more precise. There isn't a lot of factors that go into it. So after you start becoming, I guess, more advanced, we recommend that you go on to the move tank. So the move steering has different sections. So this B plus C right here is the motor ports. These basically show that which ports that you have wired in and which motors you're using that are ran by this block right here. So on your robot, like we stated before, there's different ports, A, B, C, and D. This basically just says that, hey, this block is running the motors in ports B and C. So you can always just come and change here, say like you have ports A and C instead. You can always just come and change it here. But we're going to keep it B and C since my robot is wired up to B and C. Next you have this section right here. So if you click on it right here, this is like your mode section. You have different types of modes that you can choose, like for seconds, degrees, rotations. So you can obviously change this block into whatever you seem fit for your need. However, we're going to keep it on for rotations since that's just usually the common thing that it's just default applied. So right here we have different sections. We have the steering section. So like we said earlier, this arrow kind of just shows you what your robot's doing during this block. If you change this number to even say like 50, you'll notice that the arrow turns right. So this means that this block is now turning right during the program. If you do say like a negative number, say like negative 50, it turns the other way. So this program basically runs on negative and positive numbers, as well as on a 100 scale. So if, say, you want to turn right at 90 degrees, since it's on a 100 scale, you would do 50. So if you wanted to turn right, you would do 50. If you wanted to turn left, you would do negative 50. So that's kind of how a lot of the blocks in this program are. So if you just want to go completely straight, just keep it 0. Even if you do 1, your robot's going to be slanting. So unless you want to turn left or right, just keep it going at 0. The next block is the speed. So this is power. So of course power means how fast something's going to go, right? So this works also on a 0 to 100 interval. 50 is in the middle. The next icon is the rotations. So rotations allows you to change the distance of how far the robot's going to go. So one rotation is one full circle of the wheel moving. So if I put 5 rotations, it means that the wheel is going to go into 5 full rotations. So 5 full circles. That's just how this block works. It's a pretty simple block. So next what we're going to do is we're going to do a weight block. So if you come into the orange section and go into the second block, you have the weight block. So if you just click and drag it up, you can connect it easily into the first block that you've done. So this weight block is basically like a timer block. Your robot stops and doesn't move for how much time that you put into it. Like before, you can click here and there's different modes that you can turn into, but for now we're just going to keep it in time. So if you go to this section right here and say you put in 5 seconds, right? It means that your robot's going to stay in the position it is for 5 seconds. But be warned that these are Mississippi seconds, or very slow seconds, so I would recommend that you usually only keep it for, say, like 1 to 10, unless you want your robot to sit there for a really long time. So we usually just, for beginners, consider kids to say 1 through 5, 10 at most. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go backwards. So if you go back to your green section, if you go to the third block in, the move steering once again, and click and drag it up, we're going to learn how to move back. So in the first block I kind of taught you how to move left and right, but for moving back you actually go to the power section and you do the negative number of whatever you want. So say you had 50 here for power, you just do negative 50 and it goes backwards. So it's very simple. You just put a negative sign in front of whatever number you have in your power section. That's all you need to go backwards, nothing else. Like I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but you can have different things happening at the same time. So if you want your robot to go backwards while also turning left at the same time, you can put more than 2 different functions in one block of code. So that's basically just how to turn, how to go backwards or how to make your robot go backwards. It's a very simple change. We're actually going to do another weight block, just that way kids get used to this, because a lot of sensors tend to use the weight block with the mode section. So we usually try and emphasize that kids know what this weight block is and how it works. So you can just put, again, whatever number you want, and you can run the program from here. Okay. So next we're going to learn how to use a loop. So if you actually look in your orange section, it's there. These are 2 different types of loops, but this is the most common one and the easiest one. So it's actually the middle block in your programming. So you can just click it and drag it up. And I always recommend that you insert it in between the first 2. So if you just slowly come in between them, you should be able to just place it inside. So a loop is basically anything that whatever is inside the loop, it repeats. So since there's nothing inside the loop right now, this is not repeating anything, and since it's going on for infinity, your robot's not going to do anything. So we actually have to put your program, or whatever you want to repeat, inside the loop. So the easiest way is obviously just going one by one, but that can take time, especially if you have a lot of code that you've already coded, but you need it in the loop. So what you can also do is if you just click and hold and then drag across all of your code, it will select all of your code, so that way you can place it inside the loop at one time. So that's just an easier way, but of course if you just want to do your block one by one, once again your robot won't blow up, it'll be fine. So right now this loop is set for infinity. In fact, the default for the loop is infinity. So this basically means that my program is going to run on the robot for infinity, for forever. But say most of the time you don't want it to run for infinity. So you go to this section right here that has the infinity sign and you click on it. Once again, you have a ton of different modes you can go for, but however, the most common two you'll use is probably count or time, depending on whatever you need for your certain situation. Time usually just means that this loop will go on for 10 seconds. No matter where it is in the loop, it will go on for 10 seconds. Count is the one that we usually use. Count just means that if I put a number in here, say like 5, that this loop will repeat 5 times. So this is more of like a select limit number of times that your loop runs. So this is important because say like I had another move steering block right after the loop. The loop will always finish how many times it needs to go before continuing on to their program. So the loop is not going to do it once, go on the rest of the program, and then come back to the loop. It finishes the loop, and then it goes on to the rest of your program. So this is why count is such an important thing, because you have a limit of how many times your loop actually goes. So now we're going to do a simple demonstration of our loop program, so that way you can see what this program looks right now. So actually, next we have to save the program. So if you go to File and then Save Project As, it should open up, and we recommend that you put a name or initials in here. Because say like I put Cookie in here, right? When I save this and I download it onto the robot, when I turn on my robot and look for my program's name on the robot is going to be Cookie. So if you don't put a name for your robot and you just say save, for your program and you just say save, on the robot it's just going to look program. And this can be really confusing once you have a ton of different programs on your robot, because then you're not going to know which program is your program. So we just recommend that you place whatever initials or a name into your program. So for this program, I'm going to name it Move Forward. So that way I know what this program is doing. So I'm going to actually say Move Forward and Loop. And I'm going to save. So as you can see, the name changed from Move Forward to from just project to Move Forward and Loops. That way I know what this project's name is. So next we're going to download the program onto our robot. Okay, so I have all the stuff that I need right here. I have my computer with my program on it. I also have my USB download cord and my robot. So in order to turn on the robot, you're just going to click and hold this middle button. So it's going to turn red first. It doesn't mean that your robot's dying or anything. It just means that it's starting up. So while that's starting up, we'll discuss how to plug this in. So on your USB cord, I guess, you have two different ends. You have an actual USB end, and then you have a more slimmer end that goes into the robot. So this end just plugs into your computer like any other USB cord does. So actually if you hear that noise, it means that your robot is turned on. If you don't, it doesn't really mean anything, because you'll see that the light will turn green, which means it's fully on. This side actually goes into this little section right here called PC. So you can just insert it into there, and it means that your robot is connected to your computer. So this is just a seamlessly easy transition. So now to actually downloading the program onto the robot. So you can come over here, and the section over here shows both the wireless Bluetooth download as well as how to just regular download it. So this small section right here, it has download, then it has download and run, and then just has run select. So just to download the program onto the robot, you're going to just click here, and it's going to download. So if you hear that sound, it usually means that, hey, your program has successfully downloaded onto your robot. So after it's downloaded, you can just unplug your robot, and then you can go onto your screen, and you can go and select your program. So usually you'll go to File, and you can look at whatever you named your file. So mine was Move Forward and Loop. So I just click on Move Forward and Loop, and it opens up where there's a program underneath. You click down and you play the program, and it should be running. So yes, so if I just ran my program right now, so this was the objective of this program was to have a loop that repeats for 5 times going forward, waiting for 5 seconds, going backwards, waiting for 5 seconds, and of course, since it's in a loop, this will be repeating for 5 seconds, since that's what I've set it as. So now it moved forward, it waited. So see, the time is really slow, so it's waiting, and it should be coming forward now. So the loop allows it to go and continue on forever and ever. Okay, so it moved forward 1, then it's waiting for 5 seconds, and it's going to go back 5 rotations, and then it will be waiting for 5 seconds, and this is when the loop will come in after this. So you'll see it repeat what it's been doing. So now it's repeating the second time, and it'll be going back. So this is essentially what a loop does. It just repeats the program that I have, and since I said for 5, this program will be running for 5 times. Okay. So I hope you all had fun with programming robots today. We can't wait to see you for the next lesson.